Hello, my name is Matthew Holly, and this is the introductory segment of my leading video option 2. And when referring to my campus's demographics, I teach at one of two programs that make up our one alternative campus that feeds into our district's Sloan High School. And I work on the portion, the program that is the credit recovery program, and that in our part of the building, our demographics are 128 students, and we have a pretty small student body, and grade levels 9 through 12, and our ethnic makeup is 84.6% Hispanic, 6.4% African American, 9% white, and other demographics include English language learners make up 3.8%, while economically disadvantaged are at 92.3%, whereas those receiving special education services represent 7.7% of our student population, and those receiving 504 accommodations are 12.8%, and our student parent population of our students that are parents make up 18% of the student population, and we are a 100% at-risk population of students. And our program staff on our end of the building with the credit recovery program is one administrator, 10 teachers, one counselor, one at-risk teacher, at-risk specialist, one special education teacher and instructional assistant, 3 office support members, and 2 custodians. And the faculty ethnic makeup is makes up 10% African American, 10% Hispanic, and 80% white, and that's with 10 teachers on in our side of the building, our program. And the faculty range in average years of experience, beginning teachers make up actually 0%, and 1 to 5 years experience is 20%, 6 to 10 years experience is 40%, 11 to 20 years experience comes out at 10%, while over 20 years of experience is 30% of our faculty makeup as far as years of experience. And as far as our campus's academic concerns, although our specific program is a credit recovery program with a rotating student body and does have small numbers, however, even with these factors, especially when I was saying earlier with the 100% at-risk population and 92.3% economic disadvantage, we still, our English 1 and our English 2 EOC scores were extremely low for 2017, and they stood at the English 1 EOC being at 21.10% and English 2 EOC being at 8.5% of a passing rate. And student social and or cultural issues, one of the big things we're dealing with right now are attendance rates. And at our small campus, we're at an all-time low in the past 3 years I've worked for this program. And this is also, it's frustrating to an extent because we have put forth more effort to accommodate this issue and to basically fight this issue than we have. We progressively have gotten better each year, but we've really made the effort via stakeholders. We have community members coming in. We have local businesses coming in offering services. We have social programs like we have a martial arts program. We have a meditation program, yoga program, and all of these things working with parents and trying to get the community involved. And local business, 2 local businesses have actually been really gracious to us, and the university and the city I work in has also provided volunteers. We have social work interns, and that's been great, but our attendance numbers are still as low as they've ever been. And also with that, like I said before, we have a 100% at-risk student body, and counseling needs are high, and we only have 1 counselor. Even though we do have some interns that are social work interns that come in, actually we only have 1 right now, but we have had more in the past. We really are, our counseling needs are high and resources are pretty limited. And like I said, we're a pretty small student body, but we still need a lot of help with a lot of away from school issues. Like I said, we are 92.3% economically disadvantaged student body, as well as 100% at risk, and we really do, our counseling needs are high. And a description of this field experience activity, well, under the direction of my campus mentor, I'm going to be leading a faculty meeting it's going to be our last meeting before we as a campus begin our spring session of testing. And the main focus or purpose of our meeting is to cover the need for what we call a big push to assist our 2017 and 2018 cohort years of graduates, and or basically our current students that are set to graduate this calendar year that are still behind in credits. But also we have it's a small percentage of students, but we have some students that were supposed to have graduated with their 2017 cohort, and they're way behind in credits. So this is the big time of year to push them. So because if they don't graduate if they don't graduate this semester, by this spring semester, they are not able to come back and continue next year because of age restraints and whatnot. but at the same time, that's going to be the main focus is our 2017, 2018 graduates. Yet another, I guess you call it a sub-focus or a subcategory of this that goes into the graduates is basically related to the need to call parents with a specific purpose of explaining to certain parents about the students we have, their children, that need only a certain amount of credits to graduate, and the importance right now of really encouraging their child to come to school and be here every day and to finish those few credits to graduate. And we're required to call parents every week and to make weekly phone calls anyway to our list of parents. We're supposed to make 2 contacts per day. Nevertheless, this gives us more of a, I'm emphasizing this meeting how we now have a direct purpose, not just, a behavior report, not just to talk about grades, but to say, hey, would you help us with helping your child get these couple of credits left so they can graduate? And in the past, we've really had a good response from parents when we go in with this. Give more of a purpose for the phone call instead of just the general guidelines we follow to say, it really allows us to work with the parents and it's not to just be someone bringing bad news. And I want to emphasize that in the meeting. But also there are 2 specific incidences that happened at school this past week involving 3 specific students. So 3 students were involved in 2 incidences. And because we have a small student body, it really affects everyone when there are behavior problems, when there is a problem involving more than one person. So we're going to discuss that and try to come to an agreement about what process to take as far as dealing with the situation and what's best for everyone involved. And we're going to come to, like I said, we're going to collaborate and try to come to the final say in what we do as far as behavior management in this case. And as far as the items on my agenda, they're going to include, like I said before, the 2017-2018 graduates as the guiding conversation related to credits and need for increased attendance and student output when teachers are making daily phone calls for the next few weeks to parents. And also makeup hours. And so the second part of the agenda are discussing makeup hours, or we have 3 main options for students who have been absent. So the district allows us 3 options to allow them to make up hours, and we're going to just to remind the staff the need to remind students and to, when you call parents, that make up hours, you have your 3 options that we already listed that are provided by the district in case you do need to make up for some days that you've been absent, and so you are able to graduate. And another thing that's going to be brought up, and this is also, it's not the main purpose of the meeting, but we had an issue this past week as well involving a safety concern that was brought forth related to staff using cafeteria access to, or the cafeteria door to enter and exit the building. And this was apparently a safety concern which was brought up, and I'm going to just address this at the meeting again just to remind everyone that we are no longer allowed to enter the building in the morning in the cafeteria way of the building or exit this way when we're leaving. So I'm just going to bring it up one more time. And the next part of the agenda are, like I said before, the 2 specific behavior concerns involving the 3 students involved in both incidences that happened actually in the past 2 days in school. And the next part of the agenda is a reemphasis on 2017 cohort year graduates and the need to encourage these students to increase their level of output related to coursework. And this reemphasis is basically just to cover any students that we might have forgotten or any students that weren't directly on the list, because we have a lot of students who aren't too behind in credits, but they're just enough behind that it might be a little bit of concern. They might be overlooked. So this allows the staff to come together and talk about any students that were left off that really do need the extra push to finish out with their class in order to graduate. And after that, the meeting's going to begin, so that's the agenda, and the meeting's going to begin promptly by 3:50 p.m. It's going to run for 40 minutes. And the only materials that are needed will be just a copy of the meeting's agenda that I'm going to hand out to everyone. And in addition to that, we have an attendance log that's always passed around at the beginning of the building, and it's part of our meeting norms. And our, like I said, our weekly sign-in sheet. And that's just going to account for everyone that's at the meeting. And there are 2 specific teachers that will not be able to attend because one is out for the week and the other one is going to be on duty at the time. So that's the meeting, how it's going to go about and what time. And the method that's going to be used at the very end for time management will be our group. We have a minute keeper time taker, and she served in this capacity for every staff meeting that we've held for the entire year, and actually a year before as well. And in addition to our minute keepers, another teacher that serves both as she's our official facilitator and recorder of meeting notes. She does both roles. And she keeps the meeting process moving forward when referring to evaluating effective communication, collaboration, listening, and relevance of topics discussed. And she is fantastic as well. She always keeps us on track, and they both do a really good job and help our meetings be really organized. And the method I'm going to use by way of surveying all participants will include two options. One is a printed because everyone's going to want to leave at the end of the day. So I'll give them a couple options. I'm going to just provide everyone with one printed copy of all the survey questions that are going to allow for handwritten responses if they would like. Or I'm just going to send, I'm going to do both. I'm going to send each member the same document via Google Docs if they prefer to type out responses instead. And I'm doing this to allow them not to feel like they have to just jot everything down at the last moment right before they leave, but to give them an extra night or an extra day just to come up with their responses. And also, if it's reemphasized via email, they'll be more likely to respond to it without me having to go and ask them, hey, do you have this? And I'm not worried about my stuff. There's 10 of us. We're all really close. And that's how I'm going to be surveying responses, giving them a little bit more leeway and some options of how they're going to respond to how well they think I performed as leader of the meeting for the first time. And that is the introductory portion. Thank you. Everyone got the sign-in sheets with your names on it. You're good. Now, 2018 graduates, phone calls. So now when you're calling parents right now, it's the first thing we're going to bring up. I like this because I heard Mr. Passons talking the other day about he's sometimes running out of things to talk about on the phone. I concur. And what did he bring up to me about how a parent said, even made a comment about, well, why are you calling? Not in an antagonistic way, but at the same time. And he said, no, I just want to bring up some good things. This is a very good point of reference and purpose to make a call. Say, hey, this is what they need to do. They're about to graduate, or hours they need. And I thought this would make phone calls just a little bit easier. And Ms. Law was talking about the need for pushing of 2018 graduates right now. Is anyone want to add to that?
I think that's a good idea. And then so the parents will know that they're getting close, and they can also encourage them at home.
It's like when we went out to congratulate Nico the other day. Does your mom even know you're graduating?
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
You
I
know?
called her several times, but.
Yeah, I know,
Well,
but that was the
anyway,
same
yes.
idea.
Yeah.
It's like never sure that they're really
Right.
kept up to date on something.
I do that a lot, and I think parents appreciate it. Or like if I do emails a lot too, I'll look there and I'll say, okay, I need one credit history in this. And it's kind of to fill because I don't have a lot to say, but I think they
No, but
appreciate
that's good
knowing what they
information.
have left.
I think as a parent, that's what I would want to know.
Well, we just need to be really, really careful about the requirements that we talk about and what they have to have. Because
Yes.
if they
Yes.
are not correct,
Yes.
we
Yes.
create a storm from this law, and we have seen it before,
Yeah.
so.
Yes.
They just need to be really careful
And
that they
sometimes
get
they
stressed out.
misconstrue the information you give them. Which I think happened with us.
And what you could do before you made a phone call is come by and I can highlight and give you a map, then you know that you've got an accurate information to tell.
It's still not safe to say, and then always end it with that qualifier about what
Yes.
Miss Law's the
Right,
final
right.
examiner, whether or not you've made all your
I'm
credits
pretty
for that,
sure
or maybe
it's-
something I don't
Yeah.
know about.
Yeah, Ms. Law, with that, do you want us to just come to you or go to Google Docs? Or we better just come to you, think, with that?
They would come to me,
Yeah, I think so.
especially at this late point of the game.
Yeah.
We don't have too much room for, errors or whatever, so.
Is there any student in particular that we need to pay attention to right now that's behind?
For graduation.
2017 still,
Who are those?
Like Lawan or?
Aisha, Joseph, Tristan, Aisha is a 2017.
Joseph Martinez?
Uh-huh.
Hernandez, the one that you never see,
Oh,
or the two
one of their
sisters.
And is one,
So
is
not-
one already in
she's-
Mexico as
right.
well?
One's in
That's
Maria.
Maria.
That's Maria, that's right, Maria.
The other one will be there.
Samantha Reyna is our
Yeah.
other,
She's
she's
was getting a lot better until, I think this is the first day she's been absent.
she's our 2017 that's got the best shot.
Okay.
And I was glad that Joseph and Tristan were there today at our, presentation, and thank you for that.
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was good
That was
too.
very
I knew it would be because I've seen them before in ag, and they're, it's real world stuff for them.
Exactly, right.
Tristan Reyes, is that 2017?
Yeah.
And how many?
How many credits does
He
he
hadn't
have?
got any, he hadn't earned since he's been here.
Oh, okay.
He's working, I gotta give him
Yes,
props.
but yeah.
Him and Joseph both, and I've talked to
Yeah.
Suzanne the other day,
Yeah.
they've both done way better than I ever thought
Oh,
they would.
yeah.
But it's
Still,
gonna be
they
hard.
still have
It's gonna
some.
be hard.
A little,
But
a
they
lot of
have
work's
to
a little
budget
too
this
late
year.
though, unfortunately.
They have to graduate this year.
And Joseph Martinez is in the same boat?
Yeah.
Oh,
Dang
okay.
it.
He's
And
been
if
putting
they
some
don't,
work
they
with
can't come
Spanish,
back in the
but
fall. It's 5 and
They probably won't let them at the high school. They'll already be counted as a dropout though. This is their 5th year. We've done sometimes in the past, but that was,
Maybe if they got super,
In-house.
super, super close.
Do they do summers?
No, probably not.
probably,
Okay.
because it gets to a point of cost. For them.
Juan's in that boat too right now. Or is he gonna be able to come back?
Sophomore?
No, he's got another year.
No,
Why-
one sophomore
why
is
don't you
19 or
17?
20.
Yeah,
He's
got
in
another
late.
year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think he's a
Straight
19.
from rebound.
I think he
Okay.
is too.
He's late.
I didn't know he's that young.
I didn't either.
No.
With that said too, Brandon, is there anyone right now that has serious makeup hours that we need to push? It's not becoming the, like, I was thinking, well, obviously there's mornings and lunch, but Saturday school is just, that's. the
Lunch, they
money.
can't make them up.
Yeah, lunch doesn't,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's just
Mornings
Saturday.
they can, it's gotta be non-school time that they can make it up.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now-
Offer that, yeah.
Was that a special deal with Belinda, or if they work from home after
We
hours?
talked, the attendance committee met this morning,
Okay.
because I wanted in writing from the attendance committee, first, several things. Number one, the attendance committee decided that, for attendance hours calculation would be for second period only absences. That's the money period.
Okay, right.
Now, keep in mind, high school does all
right.
7 periods, and so we're doing second period only. Edgenuity from home would be a case-by-case basis, but what the one qualifier we would want to see is it a parent? You know, like Melinda's a parent, so,
I see.
and,
Are they a
or
parent?
someone maybe with a documented
A health
illness,
issue.
Yeah.
a health issue,
Is it
Okay.
not
truly
just,
extenuating
Right.
set of
yes,
circumstances?
not just, they didn't wanna
Some
come,
schools
they wanna
will
work
work
at
at
it
home.
at
Cause we've
home.
had too many of them that just say, well, I'll just do it at home then.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have to lock them out where they can't do anything.
But we do have a lot of parents that, can't come to school, there's, several of them have had daycare issues. And I will tell you that from the board meeting the other night, speaking of daycare, they are going to be renovating, pretty soon, the old TLA building. And so that's gonna add 2 more classrooms to the daycare. And so that'll help, with some of these kids who need it. And they are happy that they're gonna be here and farther away. They're not even that thrilled with us being this close. They don't like the kids coming in. They get a little too tied to, you know, we've all had kids that we had to drop off at daycare, and you didn't get to go down in the middle of the day.
It's disruptive though, too, to the little child, to the little kid, they wanna go home with you, and then they're upset. So
Yeah,
it's,
yeah,
yeah,
I mean, you gotta walk away from them. twice in-
exactly, yeah, twice in one day, that's difficult.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mr. Holly was asking about attendance hours, so yes, there are special
Special
circumstances.
circumstances.
Real fast, if you hear it, some of these kids, did do the river cleanup, and some have come on Saturdays. Brianna Alvarez, Brianna Antomas, Julian Arredondo, Jacob Campos, Haley may, you know, depending on, you know, we'll see. Johnny, no, he made up hours. Serenity, we haven't seen. Melinda, we already said, I'll look at her stuff she's done online. Graybill. And I sent y'all this email out, so I don't really need to go through this. I sent y'all this email. This is the same list I sent you. A couple came on Saturday, and, everyone who went to the river cleanup will get 8 hours.
Oh,
Really? Okay.
And if you counted on their wellness log, that's fine.
I did,
Good. Then they're also getting time.
right, okay, great, yeah, awesome.
Speaking of that, I was worried about Gabe, now that we're bringing it up. Is he hours, is he, as far as? Yeah, that's
He-
tough.
He owes hours for sure, but I'm wondering, why doesn't he have any holds on this?
Cause I don't think did he?
They're new hours? Is that?
Yes, these are
okay.
hours for this
For this,
semester.
okay, and that's what I told him, because he's like, don't say anything, I'm like, they're gonna know, they know,
This hours for
I saw him out of nowhere today, and I thought, or no, yesterday, and I thought.
they know when you're here and when you're not, yeah, we keep track of these things.
won't
No,
tell.
it's this semester.
Okay, yes, he owes out.
So it's when they,
Oh.
they need to start making them up, or they'll have to, it's like, Nico did come, and Nico made up 13 of his, or 14 of his 17 hours. So,
You graduated. The next item on the agenda, everyone has their agenda, of course, is the cafeteria entrance and exit. Luckily, this is not quite the situation with the buses last year. And even Mrs. Law, as I put there, is not allowed to come in. And so one of the women working in the cafeteria told me about this, and she came up and told me,
She stitched you out.
oh, and she said, so the offenders are not me, of course, and Joe, Miss Law, but three of us and Jimmy go in there quite a bit. And it's a safety issue, was the first thing that, I already forget the name of the,
Mike Boone.
he said it's a safety issue. In the car, wasn't any of our cars, thankfully, Miss
it
Maylee.
was his.
It was
No,
Mike
no,
Boone's car.
it wasn't.
Yeah, it was.
It was.
Well, that's awkward.
I love it.
I think it's hilarious that it was Mike
I
Boone.
just
That's
cracked
yours?
up.
It didn't look like
Perfect.
your car to me.
It's not my car.
No, it's
I
not.
don't know.
It's
Mike.
It's
I
Mike
thought-
The guy that said
Boone.
you
When
can't go
it
through the
happened, I
door.
called Miss.
So you're basically saying I'm not
While
clever.
he's at
You
her
called
saying we can't
Miss
come in there, he's
Velazquez,
parked
I said,
out there. in
That's
front
none of our
Fire
vehicle.
I thought it
didn't
was an
wanna think he
employee.
was-
No,
I said,
well,
no,
yeah.
No, he
one
is an
ever
employee. He's the one
parks
that
in
said
no,
that.
ever.
Oh,
So we got to
man.
talking,
And I missed the joke.
I got a little worried, I said, cause no one ever parks there.
Right.
Never.
Never.
I said,
Who is that?
even
Who
maintenance,
parks there?
sometimes maintenance does, but,
But they're always around.
Wow.
though.
But,
They're coming in and out of their stuff.
so we got to talking and we figured it out, and even Lucy said, yeah, it's mine.
When she told me that, I snorted through my nose.
That's hilarious.
It was perfect, man.
But I didn't want her thinking
Talk about
that
irony.
was one of us.
Right.
No.
I said, no, no one would ever park there, I wouldn't let them, or, I didn't wanna,
So it wasn't me and Mrs. B.
No,
No,
it wasn't
it
us.
This
Oh,
wasn't
good
us.
job, Miss
You guys were front door parkers.
That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah, I think it was still, it was actually part of the wall, they were parking back there.
Why would I
I'm
park
not
back
parking
there
anywhere, they're parking by my room.
Door right there.
Well, and I think
Table
now
over that
maybe
grass right
it'll be okay to walk through rebound, or, I guess
I
not.
guess, I don't know.
Still, after 2.5 years, 2 years,
I know.
still,
I did it
I
on
don't-
the way out.
I
last
know.
time, but
Well, I do it at, well, no one's there.
Oh, we told
I'm
not
such
to.
a rebel though, huh?
We were told not to go through them?
well, when we first,
Prior
when we
year.
first moved over.
It was don't come through here. Now it just
Oh,
says
okay.
between like
If there's
8:30
class, I
and
don't know.
3:30.
I only do
Right.
it, I only do
Before
it
or
if it's
after?
pouring down rain. I'll come
Yeah.
through there when
That's
it's
the way,
raining.
it was,
Yeah.
I went out there.
But I did,
Usually
I
don't
come in
do
with
it
Miss
the
Kay,
middle of
huh?
the day,
I come with her.
Well, it's like the visitors.
but- Or I'd go in there and I'd say,
filled
hey to
with
Mike like I'm
faculty.
talking to him about
Right.
something.
Yeah. I was just down there talking.
And I was down there helping him on his computer, and I can always get away with that one of mine.
So I thought it was funny when she said, I already forget her name, but she's so sweet, but she says, you and the tall guys, I remember, so, yeah, who that is, so. But at the same time, they were so nice about it, and I thought, I don't want them to get in trouble, or have someone come up and say, hey, make sure they don't, and they had to go communicate it, so I thought, easy thing for me not to do at least, I don't know about the tall guys or this law, but anyway, so we're not gonna do that, good stuff.
I'm gonna do that.
And student, now, when I say student, information, this is something that happened at fourth period. Ariel and Desiree, it got rough, and Mr., fourth period, Mr. Passons, was there as well. A lot of touching going on, poking, and Desiree, is trying to work. Ariel had over 3.5 hours of idle time and would not let her work, and that was becoming an issue. So, I'm just suggesting a room change. I don't mind having one of them, but
The
then
fourth
together-
period is doing like, normally they would do it
Oh,
for math
right.
review.
So that's not gonna happen.
He wants them all together.
He
so-
wants
so-
them
see.
together, so the reason
The
why.
fourth
we
period,
give
we're not
them
gonna
there
change it,
is
you have to
because,
tolerate it tomorrow.
Okay,
I'm
that's
not
fine,
sure.
that's
Well,
fine.
I don't know if they're,
Split them up
Send
tomorrow.
one
yeah,
to
they're,
me.
yeah,
Yeah.
And I'll keep one out, cause I can,
We only got one more day, but.
Yeah.
oh, that's right, it's just Friday,
Yeah.
cause I can keep Desiree at least, because she has history and she works, and,
He'll give you the one that doesn't work.
no, 'cause she is math, yeah. I thought that right when I said it, no, cause she
Great,
does do math.
Adam, do
You know
it.
what, actually, just to be fair, I'll take, cause Ariel alone's fine too, without her, everyone
Yeah,
else.
I think
They do
together,
okay.
yeah, I can.
Oh, they do
Yeah,
very well.
she still hasn't fully bought in though, because when
No.
they were having an intake the other day, she was like, I'm Phoenix bees, shouting at the
At the
rebounders.
rebounders.
Yeah.
At the zoo, she's
Yeah.
still a little
Yeah.
rough around the edges.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I didn't cuss.
Absolutely, there are the powers of edit, so that's okay too.
Yeah,
And-
drop that.
No, the quotes were perfect though. I worked the Mr. Cross. And so, like I said, it was not. That, I just try not to make a deal of it because of my past with Ariel. And like I said,
Right.
if I have to have her, there's something doesn't bother me.
Wait, back up.
Mm-hmm.
We need to, Ariel does not, change that tomorrow. Ariel does not need to be going to Holly's room for any reason,
Mm-hmm.
no reason.
True.
Hadn't
We
been
need to,
an issue, but
so
still.
we need
Lines,
to
you might need to
check,
go in there and
change
check her out.
the door or
Just to
something,
support
or
them on that one.
intercept or something, but
Yeah.
I forgot about that. That
Mine
is-
did too.
Mhm.
So y'all, somebody needs to pull, who has their third period? Ariel.
It might be for us.
It must be.
No, it actually is Presley because that's the next issue we're about to talk about.
Oh,
Well, hold on, but
Let
Presley has her,
let me check, double check.
Presley can keep her then tomorrow.
Yeah.
And Miss Lon, I talked to
Nobody in
her.
their fourth period anyhow.
Huh?
It's like limited numbers in their fourth
Right.
period anyhow.
But, she doesn't need to be going, she doesn't need,
Presley,
okay, so, make a
Presley's gotta
note,
keep
Ariel stays with Presley.
for fourth tomorrow.
She doesn't come into your room.
Yeah.
She doesn't
Oh,
come
but-
into your room.
No, not at
No,
all.
you're not gonna let her come in.
Not at all.
No, if she does, and just come,
And I might
let
just
me,
go in there. and
just
to
move her.
support
I don't
it.
think it'll be an issue, but if I do, if it is, I'll
Or
definitely
no,
be an
she's
issue. I don't
not
think she
going
wants to
to
come
Warren
anyway,
County.
so.
She's gonna stay
Mm,
in
Not,
Presley.
not
You
if
never
she's got
know.
Sugar Bunny in there.
That's
She
very
wanna
true.
go in there.
and then you can have Desiree.
No, she works, she's been.
Right,
yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
History
Ariel will
changed.
stay with Presley during,
Yeah.
third and fourth, tomorrow after lunch.
Excellent. And that's the third period I was gonna bring up, with just to keep, now, this one, Miss Lon, I talked about. This is actually more of a situation involving Natalie. She's really upset about Ariel being here, but it kinda spilled over in the third period. Ariel is not causing this, but that's what they were talking about most fourth period, was Natalie this, Natalie that. And however, if Natalie does not make it an issue, Ariel won't either, and Natalie is having a hard time doing that. And she's trying to get out of the third period, she comes into my room, I'm like, no, we gotta go back to class, so just keep an eye on them. Mr. Goins and I, we had the issue with the bus on Friday, when Mr. Goins had to go and tell the bus driver, but that continued today, and now, unlike last week, Ariel is talking about it, which she wasn't before, so.
I talked to Presley about it, about third period, and like he said, whatever Ariel's saying, everyone else in the class is chiming in, because whatever Natalie's doing, she's getting even more attention. And it's kinda like Brittany when she used to back in the old.
Very good point.
And everyone's like, everyone's rolling their eyes and like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, it's not, but, you know, because Ariel said something. Tomorrow, Mr. Presley, if you'll try to remember, third period, keep Ariel, she's gonna stay with you third and fourth. Yeah, she doesn't need to go to Mr. Holly's room. We forgot about that.
There's a chair right here. If you want to just grab it.
Mr. Hollywood has, problems, or she did, Holly did, she had a problem.
Yeah.
And like I said, I don't want it to seem like I'm just,
Never mind.
It's not it. Oh, if everyone hadn't heard, we made up, Monty and I, we've made up.
You
Yeah.
did? I couldn't tell.
Growling
Growling at
What
each
happened?
other.
What?
What was wrong?
He's not leaving.
Oh, right, well, I'm
Yeah,
trying not
right.
to.
You're not leaving?
What?
You're staying with us.
I asked him to rescind, but I haven't heard from him yet, so they may not, I don't know.
Well, hey, all
But I
right.
did send him an email to Willie Watson, and my son's been up there, that's the primary reason we're gonna move, and he finally decided, I just can't take the numbers, they're hard drawing, that's numbers are down here, so he likes his numbers up there.
Yeah. Buy an
Who doesn't?
RV and live up there and so.
Yeah.
I know, that's exciting. I know.
Hopefully it is, like I said, I haven't heard back yet, I emailed him, and,
Too late.
yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm wondering,
Go ahead and
what
posted
kind
the
of,
position.
what hoops are you gonna make me jump through to come back, and then Sonia starts on it about, well, I had to do this, I had to, and then we're gonna, I was like, Jesus.
Yeah,
between her.
but she's an
Yeah.
aide.
Right.
That's a very different thing.
Saturday-
Hopefully, so, yeah.
Saturday school thing.
Um,
Well, yeah.
oh, let me know when we're.
And I didn't want it to make it seem as if I was coming down on Ariel too much. I'm really not, because this situation is really, as Ms. Law has mentioned, is much more Natalie instigated, even though she doesn't mean to. Ariel's not really the one going after her, so just keep an eye on
Well,
her.
and Natalie will go, like, she does remind me of Brittany. She, this morning, she came in the room and had to hug everybody in my room, and then she leaves, and everyone's like, well, why, I don't want a hug from her. And she's very in their space, and
Yeah,
it's
she
to
does.
And then
everyone.
she takes offense to it if
If they don't want it, yeah, exactly.
And the other part that we can't really control is that I know Brittany's off already, cause she attached herself to her yesterday. She did nothing all day, Brittany, 4 hours of nothing, no quiz, nothing, and that's not normal.
And today.
Brittany gets 5 quizzes a day, and today it's nothing, and I'm like, great, she's throwing, and then, however, so that's not good, but,
How close is Brittany, like? She's pretty close. She's pretty
but
close.
she's gotta stick around for review.
Well, she's got US
Sure.
History B, Government, Eco, that's the
Now,
problem.
I totally seen her grandma bringing her up here for review, I mean, making her.
No,
come
she's
up
not gonna
here.
be done with
She
the work.
won't be
She'll
done.
with it.
No,
Okay.
there's no way.
No, in fact, we need to probably start pushing.
I'll
To
just
get her
start a
done.
Fight with her to get her,
Yeah.
and she always finds a way, and you
Yeah.
get.
Well,
sitting
we
under
got
every day
to
'cause
tie
it's
Yeah.
once you're down
activities
there.
to quizzes.
Already.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that, Ms. Law?
Like go
I did.
organize the school store after you
Oh,
get
okay,
four
okay.
quizzes.
Mhm.
Things she
Right.
wants to help and wants to work, but we
Right.
have to tie it to quizzes.
She's really good at getting it done. When you
When you
provide
give her a
Something
reward.
like that,
A
because
goal.
she shredded for me this afternoon, cause she was bouncing her.
Yeah.
Well, she got it through in no time, but then here Natalie wanted to come in and,
Even though Natalie, like I said, it can be a little bit difficult in the morning, she does do pretty well with me in the very beginning. And I was thinking, except for that period with her, Brittany, until the afternoon, I'm pretty wide open, so. But then again, will she wanna stay? She wants peace and quiet.
Who
from me,
does?
Brittany. I mean,
Brittany
No,
doesn't.
no, no,
she's-
no.
She
That's
doesn't want
true.
peace and quiet.
No.
If she wanted peace
I
and
wish-
quiet, she would stay with me.
Yeah, okay.
She won't even come in my door.
She works well with me, but like.
She goes to the other side of the hall.
Imagine that.
How long has this been though? When did that happen?
What, with me?
Forever.
2.5 years.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought-
Day one.
Brittany's got 23.
Yeah, she's getting close, but
Never
great,
worked
but I'm, and good for her, but I'm with Monty.
Yeah.
I don't think we should slack off, I think we should
Right.
push, cause better her finish early than, and come back for review than not finish.
She's not, nobody's gonna walk out this door, and be a non-member. We have lost too many non-members.
They don't come back.
They
Look at all
don't
those
come
guys that's
back.
supposed to be doing
I
now,
don't-
like,
They gotta
what's his
stay,
face,
don't they?
John Ranhell and Andrew and.
Kayla Gray,
Kayla.
not Kayla,
Kia.
Kia. Kia, never, she hadn't been back
When I
once.
call, she doesn't come back.
And I'm not gonna let a non-member,
Okay.
I'm not gonna let anyone non-member.
The only
Okay.
one that's getting close to that is gonna be Dulce, cause she's so many star reviews away and so many
She's not
quizzes
gonna-
away,
she's not-
and,
Graduate with
She
30
still
credits.
needs like 4 credits.
and
I
she still
know,
needs
but-
every star.
Yeah.
She only
They're
has-
not, no one's going, I mean, I
She only
think,
needs, she only has.
cause our non-member list is growing.
Yeah.
I was gonna bring her up too. Is she staying in place pretty well? Because-
No.
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 That's because she did get Spanish done today. for final schedule,
Good.
Which is, oh, okay, now, that was one of the sections. She saw
Now,
another
that's the
one,
second
but-
half of third, right?
Yes.
Yes, cause I was the first half to do a review, and then I followed her down to your room, she went in there. Then she was like, no, that she wanted to go to Gina's because she said that you wanna break things.
Oh, normally, today I didn't, but normally I do, but I'm gonna switch to Jimla's the rest of the week. Just so she can, the point is, she can definitely come to mine half, and I will keep her in there. Cause she's gonna get the credit today. She probably told you that she was going just to,
No, she didn't
Work.
actually go, she was telling you
She came
that
to
she
me.
couldn't go to you, she had to go to Gina
What?
because you told her that you couldn't take her because you were going on break, and it's like,
Oh, that's
I
false.
know, I mean, that's what,
Oh,
that's what
yeah,
she's doing
thanks.
now.
I was
I'm glad-
gonna
I am
ask-
so glad you
gonna
brought that
ask
up.
about the-
Yeah,
let's say I was working with Joseph and Marcus, yeah, she could've joined
but
right
Joseph's
in.
the same story, he's in my room for the review, and then when it's over, they wanna go do Spanish with you. and
That's
He's
they
been
had
doing,
me.
he's been doing
Yeah.
great.
That's when he comes in and tries to.
He's,
Well,
Joseph has
that's when
been
I
great.
called him down there, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
you made him, Mr. Holly's the
She
one right
holds
here.
on to all of the items.
We went in there with Desiree.
She told him yesterday he was gonna have to get his own
Oh,
beat
good.
purse.
Good.
Yeah.
Can you give him some tickets and get him a backpack from the store?
It was pretty funny.
In his defense, he has been coming to me, he's been working,
Oh,
so.
he's been working great,
He's,
yeah.
I thought that'd be a big problem, always trying to go find the girlfriend, if not, so,
Your fans are on the way.
oh,
He
great.
does. But he usually wraps it up.
He has to go walk by.
Yeah,
Gotta
Laura
kill my
decided
fantasy.
not to
No,
take this long.
I'm just way down the match.
He'll
I
linger
have
at
to
the
run
end,
through
but he's there.
Katie's room to say
He
hey to
does,
her.
yeah.
She'll
You know
tell.
what, I should come
Yeah.
pull
I
him.
give him
I'll
30
come pull
seconds
him.
each.
Well, I
Well,
never know
that,
exactly
I,
what time I'm
he
gonna
can't
be
complain
done.
about those two.
No,
Yeah,
not,
he
yeah.
does pretty well. He'll come in, but he doesn't linger too bad. Once I'm like, okay, it's time, he goes.
And,
Oh, thank,
what a
oh, yeah.
change.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Unbelievable.
I know, it's too
That's
bad that
crazy.
he, how many credits does he have?
10,
Really?
11.
But I think they have 13,
13.
But
Still.
he's still not gonna make it.
But-
Yeah, really.
And
yeah,
he just gotta have credit and be that he's had this US history be for us since, August of 2015.
right. So I don't know, you know.
But at least he's doing something, though, he's working and he's almost done, with it.
We
And he
need
likes the
numbers,
fact.
so. And we're going to get some new ones next week. Just got an email. Could have a possible 6 new ones next week. 2 of them are test complete. 3 of them need history. 2 of them need English 2. No biology, no algebra 1, no English 1.
Young courses out of the way.
And so we'll see. A lot of rebounders, of course. But, you know, a lot of the rebounders have really changed.
There's
once
been,
they cross
there's
that
been 2 or
threshold.
3 of them that have been coming on Saturdays that Remus hooked up. They've done a good job. I've got no complaints with those 3. They've come in there and they've been
It's a different
coming in and
environment.
working.
Yeah.
You know, even though Desiree right now, a little bit, it's still better than what we saw at the office, behavior.
It just takes them a while to get that mentality out of their head. that
Yeah,
they're A thug and running down the hallway and first when they grab the basketball, run in there and throw it at somebody else. And, I mean, you stand there at the hallway and you're watching as they're coming down, because so-and-so's trying to take them to the gym. Every group does that.
That sounds like ours.
You know, some of our old ones, they stand there and have to stare in the window at them next time.
Natalie asked me to read her essay that she wrote for,
You too?
what,
Oh,
I
yeah.
forgot his name.
Mr. Garza?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was very, very complimentary to Phoenix, her essay was.
The last paragraph, she concluded with that, she really, it was,
Yeah.
and this makes the first 2, parts difficult, but you're absolutely right, it was very saying how much we work with her, this and that, so I thought, at least we're, you know, not on the same equivalent as Ariel, so, yeah, it was, and she spent a lot, she.
Now, moment to moment, 4th period, she wasn't.
Right.
we did it
Um,
early.
Talking about, students, let's, real fast, I'm gonna, blurt out some names. We talked about those 2017s that made me start thinking. We've got some 2018s that, as Emily said about pushing Brittany, that really need to be pushed if they're going. Brianna Antamos, if she's going to, my boy Jacob, if Campos, you know, Haley. I know that you're working with Haley, and I'm hoping we can keep Johnny motivated and keep
We're
him.
losing him quick.
That's what I wanted to
Yeah, I
read, my
feel,
next
I can
item on
even
the
feel it, and
agenda.
I don't ever even see him really, except in the hall.
He's going sideways fast.
But it's funny, I'll mention
I've
Johnny
never
because.
seen him in the hall until
yeah.
this week, and
Yeah.
he's constantly.
Yeah,
And
I was
doing
like, what's
less and
going
less and
on?
less and just sitting there spacing out in front of him.
And this is the problem with him, I was gonna bring him up because he actually, when he came to my room, it's a phone issue, and the moment that I, got the phone, here's the thing though, he worked, and he's not difficult at all, that's the best part,
Right.
thankfully, but he did really well. He got his 1 quiz of the day, so that's what's frustrating, he does work well, he's not difficult, but what do we,
Well, I started calling him Johnny C note for the C note being 100 because he was getting hundreds all the time on his history. And then recently he's been drifting off, and I've been telling him, it's like, I'm giving your nickname away to some other people that are stepping up, you know, it's like, Savannah Lopez,
she did really well.
she did really, she's done nothing but work, she's got her.
Yeah,
He's losing his.
Well, I'm wondering if, like today, the presentation was great, but then, you know, he might see it as another option because of the whole GED deal, I don't know. I mean, which is good, because he still has a long road to hoe.
Yeah,
He likes his friends.
But they're gonna be, a lot of them are gonna be
I
gone.
know,
Some.
well,
Uh,
cause he hangs with Adrian and with Juan.
He's another
and-
one on the team.
they're going
Oh,
to be,
I mean, Adrian Vasquez,
Yeah,
He's gonna
another
be
one on
here.
the long list.
and the other Adrian
he's
too.
gonna be here.
Alright, so picking up with, after Johnny.
Johnny, Miguel is making, he's gonna slow down a little bit or not?
He's, well,
He goes
not
back and
vocal.
forth.
Seems to be really mad a lot now at some girl, cause I hear him come, like yesterday, I guess it was me and Penny, he was out there and was waiting for the bus, and he hit that post so
Oh,
hard
yeah, I
with
remember.
his fist, the whole building
There's
crashed.
something going on.
There's another thing.
I hear him all the time in the hallway, he's just
Mhm.
going down the hallway cussing to the
Yeah.
phone.
Something with girls.
Yeah, it is.
There was something going on with his family initially, that's when we saw him in
Yeah.
tears, when he
Yeah.
came and told you he's crying, I don't understand,
Yeah.
he said it was family,
Mhm.
and that kind of showed him out a little, and
Yeah.
she's even noticed a lot of progress then, like 6 weeks, 8 weeks.
And now he's been talking a lot more, like I think he's feeling better, which is making him more talkative and more, he's still very, like, he's still not completely old Miguel, cause he's respectful and he knows when he's in class, but he is getting harder to keep on task, because I think he's feeling better.
And
Right.
so
It's
he's
making him wanna play more. Exactly. So, good and bad, like, I'm glad he's feeling better, but
Alright, so
also
the minutes, folks.
takes more to rein him in, so, yes. Yes.
Another one that, we really need to start pushing, that could graduate is Alec De Leon. He has, slipped off, and he's not, you know, he's always hot and cold. Well, he's picking a bad time to be cold, and he has
Yes.
18 and a half credits.
Oh.
Yeah, we're not out of the woods yet, and, but he could graduate because he's passed 3 of his EOCs.
He's not working as much.
Um,
He was only in 1 or 2.
Tammy, I don't think
What's
so.
the other one besides history that he's missing?
English too.
Mhm.
How's Star doing?
She wasn't here.
Pretty
today.
well.
She's missing a lot.
Yeah.
And when she
When
does
she's
come,
here, she's.
she doesn't get here till almost second period on a regular basis,
Oh, yeah.
if she comes,
Well, that was normal,
yeah.
she's
Right.
always done,
But I mean,
and
even
it's
with
just
like
with
Lindsay.
injury, she's.
and she's back with Richard Reyes. She and Richard Reyes are really good friends, and they completely just derail each other.
I was telling the attendance committee today, some of these, you know, that aren't coming, they're going to have to make up these hours. I see Destiny Ibarra on there. I wish, I bet Jared forgot we was having a meeting, he's met with her some. I don't know if, cause she's so close, she's just kinda just waiting it out, but, I'm not gonna sway on these attendance hours.
I emailed her mom
Kara
today
owes a
and.
lot too, didn't she?
Yeah.
What about Danielle? She came today.
Danielle's got some too, I know she's had some health issues, she's closer to being done, Danielle is.
Yeah.
I think we've lost Marcella again,
I know.
don't know about Nick Morales.
She's been here a long time. Or
Met-
no, it's.
Another, I wish Dumoulin was here so he could hear too, all of us, met with, Abner was upset this afternoon. Once again, he brings it up, they think they should have stuff shortened, even Brittany this afternoon.
Oh, she
I
was all
heard
over
her,
it,
yeah, I heard her
They
say
won't,
that, like.
y'all be careful, don't shorten these, courses. It just, we get in that downward, spiral, but yeah, that's help to them. It's not sitting there Joe working with him one-on-one, it's not what he wants. He wants the lessons cut off. There's 20,
Yeah.
there's 20 lessons for
Yeah.
geometry.
There's 20, that's the way it's supposed to be.
Good
Yeah, I
bare
think
bones.
that
That's the bare
kind of
bones,
been
yeah.
on the wrong
Already.
footing, cause he came in with bits and pieces. So I initially had like him in English 2, and it was like a quarter credit.
Oh, I
So
remember that.
I think that was like, oh, it's that short.
That's
all
all
the
I
time.
That's
No, that
exactly
was
what it
the
is.
little baby piece.
That's
That's
So
exactly
not
what
the
it is.
full.
That's a
But
good
he
point.
is So on sad. pre-testing, so I mean, how short can you, how short can you get it?
Well,
You just take the
I'm not sure it
test.
should be, because he don't know any of it, because I had him there for a while, I took him off of it, because it was just his nonstop asking me, and it was like, if you're on a pretest, dude, that shows me that you know it or you don't. If you don't know it, then we do the study.
Then you
again.
don't know it, yeah.
And you're back to
He
normal.
wants to beg for answers and help.
And
on
pre-test, we're not
pre-test.
supposed to help them.
Yeah,
Right.
That's the whole
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, that, big
Unless you're
boy-
with a math teacher.
Yeah,
That's
I
the
mean,
whole
if you use it as a
You
teaching
know.
moment with him, that's a different deal, but he's just begging me to go in there and it's like,
Pre-test.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, let's see, anything else?
That was about it. I was gonna bring up about Miss Mata. We made a decision on that. She's not gonna come into my room anymore. And Monty brought up an issue about, I never saw her on her computer Googling answers, but I think there's something, yeah, cause it's
She
a
always
little
has
bit
her phone with her
inconsistent.
though.
And that's,
When I used to have her, I'd
I've
always.
never
have
had her in
phone at
class,
her
when
push
she
it
does come
aside.
in there at lunchtime,
She
she asks me to
always-
unlock a history test, and I will, and then she'll never do it. She'll sit there on the phone the rest of the lunch period, and it's like, you know.
She's
okay,
always
you're
on her
great.
phone.
And,
Constant.
but then she's getting them done, and that's when I asked her, I said, so what are you doing? She said, Mr. Holly, so I asked Matt, and he said no, so, I mean, it just,
So she's going to regular class, does she know that? Cause she.
I'm gonna
skips
tell her
it.
she
since
knows,
that's
Miss
here.
Law's gonna
She
do
gets
that.
her
Miss
late,
Law's
she'll
gonna
straight
talk
go
to
to the room and I go in there
I
like, is
never
she
know
here?
when she's here.
yeah.
She comes in about middle toward the end of first period.
Well, well,
Sometimes
yesterday,
it's lunchtime.
it was 11:15 or so, because I had done the,
And
I
get it
grabbed her
when it
for
happens.
testing her.
Yeah, it just happened to,
She-
you heard her
I
or
saw her-
whatever,
someone
I
said
said something to her, and
She's
she
on
said, is that
target
her?
list.
Yep.
And she's been up and down emotionally too, so it just out of nowhere, so just kind of looked
I
on.
don't,
I'm the one that's not.
True, good point. I was getting actual tears though from her, which, you know, I can't help it. But anything else about students bring up other concerns? Miss Laura, you want-
I'm concerned that I don't know where I'm gonna start parking at now that I can't come into that.
I know.
Down with the
Oh
students.
my goodness.
Yes, I know, I mean, I feel, stressed.
Or get
Maybe
How I
I,
am, too.
maybe I should retire.
Or Monty.
Maybe I shouldn't joke about
Okay,
that.
here's the
Oh.
Monty. Get here before the cafeteria
I
does.
do,
Okay,
they're
then
never
you're in
there,
for
I mean, half the times I beat Rosie here.
it. Oh, that's right.
I've never seen, I know.
I don't,
Why I got
I
no
think
number
you're
on
the
it.
exception of the
But
problem.
nobody ever sees me come in there unless Boone's gonna start jacking video camera.
Make you say, where'd you park at?
Yeah,
When he
right?
comes and says,
Yeah, where'd you park at?
where'd you park at?
Wait a
The
minute.
trash truck's out
I
there.
don't park by the trash truck. And maybe you need to go check the trash out there, I think they're here for it. That was fun.
That was.
All right, the test, next week, we will have EOC training. It's already that time.
It is.
Whew, here we go.
So we got at least
Amen.
one more
Oh,
subject.
hey, the good news is, it's only gonna be
Did I say that on-
probably me, Wilburn, and Katie in the rooms. Maybe Monty one day, maybe, and then Tess and Holly in the hall.
You need me in a room at all?
Huh?
You need me in a room at all? Okay. All right.
All right?
You get your test.
Oh,
Right.
I'm sorry, would you like to adjourn the meeting?
I would like to adjourn the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you. Or Paul. Hello, this is Matthew Holly again. This is the post-activity reflection for my leading video, option number 2. And so as far as an analysis of the responses from the meeting's evaluation, they were all, as I figured, I don't want to say biased, but they were all overwhelmingly positive, and they gave, and I expected this, but at the same time, it was very positive, but I did not feel as confident about how well I guess you could call it my performance, for lack of a better word or phrase. But they all seemed to think that I did pretty well, so I was glad about that. And I'm going to get into later why I think the meeting ran very smoothly. And if you want to attribute that to me, yes, I didn't do a horrible job by any means, but it's because of the organization of the meeting that we've already had the norm set up to begin with this whole year, and I'm going to get into that a little bit later. But it went, like I said, I got an overwhelmingly good response from my surveys, even though I was not quite as high on my own performance. But nevertheless, this is my first time doing it, so no problem on this yet. But like I said, I still think there's a lot I could have improved upon. But as far as the actual meeting itself, was the agenda followed? I'd say the agenda was followed 90% of the time. But the good news is I didn't see this as a negative aspect of the meeting, because every topic that was brought up or expounded upon was almost in direct response to the items listed on the agenda. So there, even though the agenda wasn't perfectly followed, there was very little chatter in other directions or in any way that really inhibited the meeting. And our facilitator was able to, one time, conversation went a little bit too long on one topic, but it wasn't getting away from the topic, and she got us right back on track. But that's never really a problem in these meetings to begin with, and it wasn't a problem this time. So yeah, the agenda wasn't followed perfectly, but still, it never got off topic for the most part, and that's what went well. And were the objectives of the meeting met? Oh, absolutely. The objectives were most certainly met. And again, I wasn't worried about this happening as well, because we as a staff we're really close, and we are used to collaborating. We're a small group. We work together every day. We are in and out of each other's classrooms. We know each other well. And so the objectives, I knew we were going to be able to work together. Nevertheless, we're able, for specific examples of how, we were able to agree upon the upcoming phone policy regarding contacting parents. And they seemed to, one teacher in particular really seemed to like the idea of having more of a purpose or more of an actual point to hit home to really communicate with parents and to ask for their assistance and help and to work with them collaboratively, as opposed to just reporting bad news, or as opposed to just always calling, not even bad news, but to inform them about something that's more work they have to do, this and that. It's more of a, hey, work with us, we can get your kid across that line and graduate. And that was one thing that I think that everyone really agreed upon. And also with that, when it came to dealing with the specific order of how we're going to solve the situation involving the behavior dispute, or the situation with the 3 students on the 2 separate incidences, this one went very quickly because everyone has had these students, so they know a lot about what the situation is and a lot about the behaviors, because these are not anything new. They've been happening. It's been an ongoing issue, and it kind of came to a head the last couple of days. And so this part was actually easy, because we just agreed upon a change of location to move this one particular student away from another, and the problem was solved right there, because the 3rd student that was involved in the situation is already on the other side of our part of the building, and the main issue is getting them out of that same class together. And today especially, it went extremely well, as far as there were no problems whatsoever. So for now, it at least either started the process or it really did work to rectify the situation pretty well. And it was just easy. We said, so would it be okay to move this student to this class, because they also, every student has a class that they need with every teacher on our campus. So it was as simple as, we're going to move them to another class and they won't be together. And I thought, well, that was easy, and everyone agreed, and everybody was fine with it. And that's that collaboration. We know each other, and we know our students, and we all are on the same page, and it was so easy to solve. Just like, yeah, no problem. And everyone was really supportive about that. And what were any revelations regarding time management or effective communication, collaboration, listening, and relevance of topics discussed? Well, I think the key assigned meeting roles and responsibilities that have existed all year, or were furthermore set at the beginning of the year, like I said before, it allowed for the entirety of this process to run so much smoother, as I said before, and than I had originally thought it ever would. It went really, really smooth. I did not think the meeting was going to run as smoothly as it did, and it really did, and it was because of this process. And in terms of timekeeping, I said that I knew that our timekeeper was going to do pretty well, because she's always on the ball, but our assigned member of staff that serves in this role, she did just fantastic. She spoke up right when we needed to move on to, she said right when the meeting was done, she goes, time's about up. And also, our assigned meeting facilitator, she only has, and I think I brought this up, she's only needed to speak up one time in the meeting, but she also directed us right back to a particular topic involving one student's progress and how this student needed credits for graduation. And this was after we as a group began just to wander a little too far off this original topic, and she brought us right back. And so that revelation of how we already had our roles set up, and it allowed us to effectively communicate, collaborate, and everyone's listening, everyone's contributing, and literally everyone was part of the meeting. And you'll see that, like I said, we only have 10 teachers, so it's a little bit easier, and all 10 weren't there this time. But it was very easy to see how well we listen and collaborate as a group. We're a good group. I know I'm bragging about my group, but we are all really close, and we all get along. And that's why it was easier for this process, but we are organized to begin with. And just in order to reflect on this particular field experience in general, What went well was first and foremost, like I've already said, I've already beaten this point down, was the time allotment. However, and as mentioned before, our group has always had this aspect of our meetings organized since the beginning of the year, and our minute keeper kept it right on, like I always said. And furthermore, like I alluded to earlier, collaboration is also part that went really well. Everyone contributed. No one was afraid to speak up and added the agenda when they felt it appropriate. And everyone was extremely good about staying with the items on the agenda. Like I said, 90% for the most part, people followed what we were doing. And when aspects that were not directly related to the agenda came up, they were either brief or connected with the listed points on the agenda directly, or not really indirectly, is more directly related to the agenda, so it ended up being fine. If I could change anything about this experience, it would be I would use more technology probably, me personally, than I used. Even something as simple as projecting the agenda on the wall for everyone to see in this case. But in the future, I'd like to use any type of PowerPoint-like presentation tool, just something easy, just to provide more of a visual element to the meeting. And nevertheless, these are more plans for what I would like to do in the future, because I thought the meeting went pretty well even without these technologies, but more my personal style. I wanted to keep it a little bit simple because it's my first time, but I would like to be more of the meeting to be more of a presentation, a little bit more engaging in that respect, because you never know, I never know who I'll be working with, and if I'll be with a large population of teachers, if I'm going to be with a big group, small group. So you always have to have different ways of approaching your group and knowing your group as far as presenting. And another thing to reflect upon this experience, I feel I was a little bit too passive in my role as the official leader of the meeting, and I don't think I asserted myself enough, but this also due, I guess, to the fact, for my first excuse, I just realized, to the fact that my teachers know me also as one of their fellow teachers and colleagues, and they're not used to me being in a leadership role necessarily, as far as, serving as a principal or assistant principal conducting a meeting. They're used to me being a teacher, one of them in the collaborative part of the meeting, and so that makes sense. And however, our timekeeping facilitation created an extremely organized flow. So therefore, like I said many times, any lack of assertiveness on my part didn't keep the meeting from running smoothly or achieving our goals, which I can't say enough really, really impressed me about the process. So anything I feel I didn't do well, it really helped with the organization of the meeting in general to overcome that. And that made me feel I was thankful about that. And I was surprised, if you're going to talk about things that surprised me about this process, I was surprised at how much easier it was to be able to fill the entire 40-minute time slot so easily. I thought I would have to be much more of a quote-unquote entertainer, really engaging everyone, but that didn't really happen. And this, as I keep saying, is mainly because the teachers that I work with, we all know each other really well, and we're very used to collaborating. We collaborate with each other every day, not just in meetings, not just in PLCs. We are always collaborating. We are going to each other's rooms, we have an open campus, and we really know how to collaborate with each other. And I can't say enough, my teachers I work with are awesome. And they really carried me, I thought, during some of my difficult moments when I was kind of doubting my organization personally with my agenda, or just my timing in general, or when I worried a couple times that I wasn't being, like I said, sufficiently active, or maybe that the points I was trying to clarify on the agenda weren't organized enough, they weren't specific enough. And if that's true, even though no one said that on the surveys, they carried me. They really helped me through that as a group, and that made me feel really good. But I need to probably be a little more assertive when it comes to, not assertive in a negative way, but more just actively leading the meeting with not just my tone, but my whole entire presentation, and just more actively engaging the participants. And however, at the end of the day, the biggest surprise for me was just to see, again, I keep saying it, firsthand how effective and beneficial it is to assign key roles to the meeting that are to be utilized, not just to be utilized every meeting, but to be set up at the beginning part of the year. That's the most important thing. I never knew until now how important that is, or not just how important, how helpful that is, how it makes the meeting so much more effective when you have these assigned roles to keep the meeting on track. I would have in the past said, yeah, that probably would help, but I saw it firsthand when I was the actual leader and I was responsible for the meeting going well. This organization that we set up at the beginning of the year in staff development, we've done it for the last 2 years especially, really made the meeting run smoothly, and I didn't have to be perfect, or I didn't have to do it. I was able to not so much mess up, but any mistakes were really picked up on and worked through. The group was able to carry me, like I said before, and I never knew how assigning these roles beforehand is such an important part of leading a meeting. And I'll take this with me, especially when I become an administrator, because that really made me feel confident. And now combine that with when I improve my style, when I improve my how I present myself and how I engage this entire group, that's going to just go hand in hand to make this not a bad process. And even I've always somewhat enjoyed speaking in front of groups anyway, or speaking in front of others. It's never really bothered me too much, but therefore, the idea of leading weekly or monthly meetings or focus groups, or even just professional development sessions, it's been in my mind as this is going to be a part of the job. So I've always expected it, but I don't know. I more or less look forward to this part of the job. So this process didn't change how I'm going to become as an administrator, because so much when it comes to really accepting the fact that I'm going to have to go in front of people and talk and give meetings, I'm not worried about that. I knew that coming in, that this is going to be a big part of my job and speaking in front of others. So that in and of itself is not something that I'm going to take with me to when I become an administrator. However, the experience, what will transform my practice as a future administrator is just understanding the overall importance of organization and timekeeping and facilitation, and establishing these norms beforehand to create a meeting that is both effective, flows well, respects people's time, and really stays to the point. And I cannot believe how well this meeting went, because I've been in so many meetings, as everybody has for the most part, or most people, when they're not very organized and when they don't respect the people that are part of the meeting, the participants. And this just didn't happen. Everyone was engaged. Of course, everybody wanted to leave, but everyone was, as you can see in the video, they were one unit collaborating through an organized system. And I can't wait to see how well this works when I do become an administrator. So this was a great experience, and I enjoyed doing it. It was a little bit nerve-wracking at times, but I really came through. I did not think I was as organized as I needed to be, but it worked out at the end. I'm really glad I did it. And thank you so much for your time.